that I am counsel for the victims of the war on drugs under the group Rise Up for Life and for Rights. I've been... Okay. Pwede bang wala? Hello?
Does everyone in the back can everyone in the back hear Atty. Conti? Yes.
Okay.
Apologies for the technical issues.
So I've been working on this issue since 2016. And I remember then I was a young lawyer. I'd just been qualified to the bar for just maybe 2 years, over 2 years. And here comes Duterte, whom we knew right off the bat will have human rights issues. I mean, given his record in Davao, we knew where this was. We knew where this was leading to. President Duterte were certainly. President Duterte will President Duterte will certainly be, a pain in the ass for human rights organizations. As early as July, I think 4th, my organization, the NUPL, already issued a statement regarding the human rights violations. Actually, if you come to think of it, the killing started the day, they've been happening in Davao for a long time, but the killings nationwide, in Manila especially, happened the day after he was declared, or he was not sworn in. When he was declared the winner. The day that he was, when everybody presumed that he was president-elect. Right after the announcement of the election results, the people started dropping like flies. As early as, I think May, he was making statements about his entire plan. And it was actually before the elections when he said that I will turn Manila Bay, which is one of the largest bodies of water in Luzon, I will turn it red. I will make the fish in Manila Bay full and fat with the bodies of these people. So it's really been terrible, especially as Duterte has not only waged war against drugs. Just for context, he's also launched, and as with any other president, there's always been a war against dissent, war against terror, as they call it. The terrorists are communists, communists are activists, and activists would be anyone who would speak up against the government. But we'll focus a bit on extrajudicial killings, and we'll look at the figures: 7,640 dead in official police operations, drug-related. But at the same time, killings in the war on terror. During the Marcos administration, so just to emphasize, the policy has resulted in about 105 dead in extrajudicial killings in the Marcos administration. We'll return back to the numbers in a while, but I'd like to also put out there that the term war on drugs we use with quotes because it's not actually a war on drugs. When in war, you have two warring parties, well-equipped, fighting each other on even grounds. This was a massacre, and it was not targeted against drugs per se. It was against the poor. And so again, trigger warning, you've seen videos before, but we'll have a few more pictures of, the dead. In Duterte's war on drugs, we've seen violations not only of the right to life, the right to due process, which Duterte is now enjoying with the International Criminal Court. Violations of the right against self-incrimination, because from Duterte's logic, anybody who was suspected of being a drug addict had to surrender. Just suspected, not proven, no iota of fact, no iota of evidence, just suspected, you're now a drug addict. And definitely violations of laws and protocols, even police protocols. The police were breaking their own rules. And so I just like to run quickly back at the pattern in the killings. step 1, step 2, step 3. So the Rappler video talks about 1, 2, 3. Here I'll talk about step 1 being vilification. You're identified, you're singled out. Who are you? You're the other. So the concept of othering, of course, is, and this is beautiful because the term or charge that he is being accused of now is crimes against humanity. In Filipino, krimen laban sa sangkatauhan, meaning all the people in the world. And what Duterte did was, in the beginning, say that, oh, there are others who are not part of us. This is dehumanization of a certain part of society. Saying that, oh, these drug addicts are, and in the Philippines, they're the criminals, they're the petty thieves, they're the ones who will kill your sons and daughters. So and I'm pretty sure this would be quite relevant for the migrant Filipino families, especially overseas Filipino workers. This was really resonant with their need to see their families safe back at home. So when Duterte said, they're the others, these are the enemies of the state, he had to exaggerate the number of drug addicts. It even came to a point that he had to chastise and I think even dismissed the chief of the Dangerous Drugs Board because he contradicted the number of addicts. He said, oh, there's millions of drug addicts. And then the PIDEA and the DDB would say, not really, not that much. So he had to say that a portion of the population had to be killed. And so as early as, before he was elected, he was promising death to those involved in drug use and drug trade. My own personal experience or encounter with Duterte was in a commercial. It was a kind of a campaign commercial, December 2015, right before the presidential elections the next year. He was on television saying, Merry Christmas to all the drug addicts, to all the criminals, to all you bad people. This will be your last Christmas. So that also shows what kind of humor he has. So the personalities that were identified were outed so publicly. He began with narco lists or drug lists. In August 2016, he, as president, put out a list of names of politicians, police officers who were involved in the drug trade, not presenting any proof. And down the line, the police and barangay or local government officials were issuing out these drug lists. And clearly, these were people identified for elimination. At one point, they tried to crowdsource information. And so we have the concept of palit ulo. They're going to arrest someone or maybe threaten to kill someone unless they would give up a name of somebody else. So literally, palit ulo is exchange of heads. At one time, they were going around with a survey or like a census. How many people live in your house? 2. How many people do this and that? At the bottom of the form, there would be like a tearaway part. Is there a drug addict in your house? Or is there a drug addict in your neighborhood? Check yes, no, name of these people. So there was a climate of fear. It was either you who would be killed or your neighbor. So of course you'd say, well, then my neighbor. And part 2 would be the operation. In police operations, most especially, they became nanlaban scenarios. Nanlaban being fought back. Nanlaban is to fight back literally. The common police story would be when they came into the scene doing a buy-bust operation, or later on they realized people were catching on. These buy-bust operations are actually very meticulous. Are you familiar with the buy-busts? It's an entrapment operation. You want to buy drugs and then you mark the money, put some sort of identifying marks. You sign up with the DDB, you coordinate with them, and then you sign up a coordination form, you do a pre-operation report, and so forth. Later on, police operations, because they wanted to skip all the formalities, started being follow-up operations, hot pursuit operations, because there were less paperwork. So they would say, oh, I was going after a snatcher, a petty thief. Oh, I was going after a robber. I was going after someone who was doing something. So caught in flagrante delicto. And when found, and after nanlaban, after they fought back, there would be drug paraphernalia in their pockets. So in any case, all of these killings would generally turn out to be nanlaban scenarios. And that would involve planting of evidence because they had no drugs. They had no firearms or whatever weapon that they were supposed to have. Obviously, there were reward and quota systems, and this was disclosed during one of the during the legislative investigations into the war on drugs and Duterte's crimes, that apparently there was a national system of giving money to those who could meet the quota. And I guess that's why we saw so many one-time, big-time operations, literally meaning the more dead that night, or in one over 2 nights maybe, the better. I'll just quickly show you. There's no video, there's no sound to this, but this is This is from a Reuters report, and you can see this is just an everyday afternoon lunchtime gathering in the communities. This is how communities in the Philippines look like, especially in urban poor areas. The police are swarming in, shooing away all the people. This is how many people are packed in the streets of a usual police operation. Many children. This kid, would be the granddaughter of one of the persons would be killed this day. And here is the actual part. Oh, sorry. There. So we're now in that alley. There's the police officer. And Campo falls to the ground. These killings were committed in so brazenly, so cold-bloodedly, and look at them scrambling all over the area without caring for the deceased. They're looking for the other person, Sherwin Bitas, who was allegedly still in the area. And they are so just casually walking by as if they owned this territory. And at that last point, someone takes a camera off. This is a CCTV video from the barangay, from the local government. So there's obviously cover-up. And then step 3 would be absolution or promising of immunity or impunity, meaning there would be no or poor investigation. Can you imagine that crime scene? Oh, well, the earlier crime scene, and also this crime scene. In this crime scene, the deceased had handcuffs on. And if they were to say, oh, that's nanlaban, how? President Duterte also promised pardon. I'm sure you've heard him so many times saying, kill, kill, kill. And that I am the most responsible for this. I'll take responsibility. And for those policemen who were just doing their jobs, I got you. And so now we're confronted with 2 types of killings. Those committed by unknown perpetrators and known perpetrators. Obviously, the known perpetrators would be police from drug operations or, follow-up operations. The most popular type of killing in vigilante killings would be the riding in tandem. It's become part of our culture now. Riding in tandem being 2 motorcycle riding men, one behind each other, obviously, and then actually both of them armed, but either one would be the shooter. In some cases, it's walking in tandem, They would just simply walk into the streets, fire at someone, and then either walk or run away, as brazenly as that. And so the effect on the Filipino psyche, just some points on this, is that there was, and I think there still is, desensitization as to the killings. And which is why precisely we have this question or issue about, oh, 30,000 dead? Give me all the names. As if one less name will make the crime less grave. Oh, Aling Sheila, Aling means a lady, Sheila, is under fire now because allegedly her son was killed last year, riding in tandem as well. And that wasn't under Duterte's term, and therefore she cannot claim to be a victim of Duterte's war on drugs. But her son had been arrested. Two of her sons had been arrested actually during the time of Duterte. And so we cannot diminish her victimhood. And we cannot say, shut up, Ali Sheila, because we're talking about EJKs only. So there has been a desensitization and a fractured consciousness like, well, you have to be killed before we can say you're a victim, before you can go to court against Duterte. And I guess for the Filipinos here, it's been hard to deal with. Hopefully in the future, with Duterte's arrest and this ongoing trial, the first step would be learning the truth. Thanks in large part to civil society and the private sector who have provided assistance. This is Dr. Raquel Fortun, who has been helping out with exhumation of the bones, autopsies. We have church groups helping with funeral and burial expenses and logistics. Some doctors, some hospitals have also provided psychosocial support. Some groups have also provided livelihood. And there's a cafe called Silingan, which is being run by the mothers or the wives of the war on drugs, of the victims of the war on drugs. But they're also victims, actually. And then there's lawyers such as us, which have helped with documentation, investigation, and the legal. But then that's problematic because in a perfect world, what is the role of civil society in investigation? None. The police should be doing all of this. And so when we started with domestic prosecution in April 2017, we found no evidence, very few witnesses willing to come forward. If ever there were evidence, because the police, cannot not present anything, they would give us police reports with exculpatory information. They would say, oh, it's because they shot back. And this has been ridiculed, really, because it's we call it a copy-paste police reports. And sometimes they would tend to copy even the names of the people. Like, oh, I thought the deceased was Sherwin. Now it's Victor. So, very unlikely that you will have evidence to proceed with prosecution. So, with prosecution, this next stage, this is what the earlier video was talking about, would be a preliminary investigation with the prosecutor to check the legalities. Was there a crime committed? Who is the perpetrator? Last question would largely go unanswered. Who is the perpetrator? If it was a police killing, you could go against the police who admitted in the police report that they went after, that they had to shoot back. But what about the thousands of vigilante killings? No follow-up operation. So this, from a serious concern, how many people were killed, what's happening? The United Nations, through the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, made a report. And in that report, they were talking about, this was June 2020, 8,600 people killed. The CHR talked about opening 3,790 cases from complaints of victims. Eventually, I think they were able to take in like 8,000 cases, but 3,000 they properly identified and documented. But how many really were killed? Here's Duterte.
3,000.
How many sons of the bitch?
If only to get rid of drugs. And this campaign I thought that I would finish it within 6 months, but my standard then was Davao City. When I became president, I had access to all information. And then I started to squeeze everybody. And then you realize it, you saw it on TV, by the hundreds of thousands, ganun pala kalala. And there are about
So that's him talking about the many people he needed to kill.
for those
And so, in the ICC, we were filing charges in 2017. By 2018, nothing was coming out of these complaints. The police were so confident that these cases were to magically go away. In August 2018, we filed a communication as victims before the International Criminal Court during the stage of preliminary examination. And with our submission, along with 50 other submissions, the ICC estimated that up to 30,000 were killed between July 1, 2016 and March 16, 2019, with specific mention of 385 in Davao City from 2011 to 2015. These periods from 2011 and then the maximum period is March 16, 2019, are the exact periods when the Philippines was a member of the International Criminal Court or was a party to the Rome Statute. So that's crucial for the ICC because it talks about temporal jurisdiction as well as geographic jurisdiction. So when can the court take cognizance or look at cases in the Philippines between 2011 November and 2019 March? And the charge that we put out there is not just simple murder, yeah? It has to be crimes against humanity, where the attack against the civilian population is widespread. It should be actually or, but here in this case, it's widespread and systematic. And you can see, why is it widespread? Number of victims, territorial extent, all over the Philippines. And for these reasons, in September 2021, the pretrial chamber opened an investigation or agreed to the prosecutor's request to open an investigation. I mentioned before that in a preliminary investigation in the Philippines, there's two questions. What crime has been committed and who's the perpetrator? Preliminary examination talks about what crime has been committed. Essentially, for the ICC, have crimes against humanity, genocide, war crimes, or crimes of aggression been committed? Yes, clearly. Now, onwards to investigation, the question is, who is most responsible? Because the ICC only looks at who should bear the greatest responsibility. And who else bears the greatest responsibility but Rodrigo Duterte? And so, this March, a warrant of arrest under seal, in secret, was issued against Duterte by the pretrial chamber. Them having been convinced that Duterte was responsible for the crimes, not only because he was president of the Philippines, not only because he was mayor, but that he was founder and head of the Davao Death Squad. And that is important because it talks about a system, the Davao-style killings that happened before, being transplanted nationwide. And, I mean, who else could have done it? Only Duterte. Only Bato de la Rosa. If it were not these people, if Duterte had not been elected, if Bato de la Rosa was not chief of police, maybe the killings would not have happened. They bear personal responsibility for these killings. And so I would say that Duterte's first appearance at the International Criminal Court at a specific juncture, right before the elections, yeah? At the time when his daughter was also being exposed for corruption and misappropriation of public funds. The Duterte criminal enterprise, is it coming to an end? But for the victims, it could be, but it's only the first step to healing. To an extent, the call to jail Duterte, this is Duterte Kulong, jail him, has been successful. Yeah, he's now in jail. Although there are questions of jurisdiction, legality over the arrest. But my unsolicited advice to Kitty Duterte, and I think is it Polong Duterte, has gone to the Supreme Court of the Philippines. They're asking the Supreme Court to say he should be released because he was kidnapped. Yeah, is to talk in the family group chat. Yeah, and kind of agree with Sara Duterte, Ate, because Ate Sara has already said, let's move on. Their remedies before the International Criminal Court. They have to engage with the court. I don't see any action from the Supreme Court of the Philippines affecting the physical custody of Duterte in the International Criminal Court, which is a separate court with separate jurisdiction. Could you imagine the Philippine Supreme Court ordering the ICC judges, hey, I want him back? So there's no such process, there's no such protocol. So there's nothing actually anyone in the Philippines can do about Duterte's situation without participating or engaging in the ICC. Not even President Marcos can bring him home. So for the Duterte family, I would say that in the next few months, it would be crucial to understand that this is it. They have to face the charges. The confirmation of charges hearing of suspect Duterte. Let's be kind of clear with the terms. He's still a suspect, and he enjoys presumption of innocence. Yeah, we're not animals here. To call him like, oh yeah, he's a drug addict. Although, he has at one point admitted that he takes fentanyl. So I don't know the cognitive dissonance for supporters to say, we hate addicts but love him. But he has admitted to using it. And his daughter has been recently exposed by friends to be an enjoyer of, I guess, marijuana. Connoisseur, yeah? Purple Kush baked, or something like that. So yeah, and with Polong Duterte and even Baste Duterte being tagged as either users or supporters or enablers of a drug syndicate under Michael Yang. These charges I know have not been proven, but it's been very difficult to come forward with information, with evidence. And even during the legislative inquiry, there was a ton of information already, but there are still no criminal charges. I guess that's what the other side of Duterte panagutin is. Marcos singilin. President Marcos should do something about these charges, about these information. File charges if necessary. Continue investigating if he thinks that there's lack of information. But for the victims of the war on drugs, this has been rather cathartic and very surreal. Because in the Philippines, justice is only for the rich and the powerful. Justice is only if you could afford it. And for the victims to see a president in detention, that's a big deal. The last time we kind of saw something like that, we had Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, but she turned out in braces, neck braces, and the wheelchair. So no, only she was under hospital arrest. Joseph Estrada, convicted of plunder. But he was under house arrest, and 3 days after the conviction, he was pardoned by Gloria Arroyo. So this is the first, probably, and perhaps the last, that will see someone of this high stature in jail, taken to account, and essentially being tried, not only by the people of the Philippines, but by the rest of the world. If in the Philippines, the denomination of the case titles of criminal cases would be people of the Philippines versus etc., etc. In the ICC, yeah, I understand. It's the prosecutor versus Rodrigo Roa Duterte. But we submit that actually, this is people of the world versus Rodrigo Roa Duterte, charging him with crimes against humanity, the very essence of us being humans. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to our Q&A. I guess we'll have plenty of time for that.
Thank you, Attorney Chrissy. So I think we all have a lot of questions, right? Right? Okay. So yeah. Please like